Morena, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. This is a joint webinar between the New Zealand Food and Grocery Council and GS1 New Zealand, and we'll just allow people a couple of moments to join and get underway. Excellent. So welcome along to today's webinar. I am Raewyn Bleakley, the Chief Executive of the New Zealand Food and Grocery Council, which is the industry association that represents manufacturers, suppliers, and the supporters behind New Zealanders' food, beverage, and grocery brands. And I am very pleased to be joined today by Richard Manaton and Klaeri from GS1 New Zealand, who are going to speak to you about a very important topic, which is what you need to know to get started with leveraging next-gen QR codes on pack. And there's quite a lot of information that is going to be shared with you that will be very valuable to preparing for the future. Before we crack into that, we are going to cover the anti-competitive statement, as we do have competitors on this webinar. We want to make sure that you're all aware that in attending these meetings, it's very important not to enter into any discussions, activities, or conduct that may infringe any applicable competition law. And we have the slide up that goes into detail there with examples, which includes not discussing, communicating, or exchanging anything commercially sensitive or information related to prices, product strategy, costs, revenues, trading terms, and conditions with third parties, including purchasing strategy, terms of trade programs, or distribution strategy. So by attending this webinar and staying online, you acknowledge that you are agreeing to abide by that competition statement. Thank you all very much. So the format for today is that Richard is going to speak first, and he's going to then hand over to his colleague Klaeri, and then we're going to come back and have some Q&A time so that you can ask the experts anything that you would like to ask them about this topic. So with no further ado, other than to remind you that we are recording this so that people can watch it later. But as you're putting your questions in the chat, we will pick those up from later, so you can pop those in as we go through, and then we will come back and have a discussion after we hear from Richard and Klaeri. So over to you, Richard. Thank you.
Thank you, Raewyn, and good morning, everyone. And thank you very much for this opportunity to talk to you about these new generation barcodes that are coming to a store near you. You will hear us talk about 2D barcodes. You'll hear us talk about QR codes, and in particular GS1 QR codes. They're all essentially the same thing, and they do represent a dramatic shift from the traditional stripy barcode that you use today. And we'll spend quite a bit of time today discussing the differences between what we have today and what's coming in the future. As part of that, could I ask that you have your phone handy, because we will ask you to actually scan one of these QR codes later in a demonstration to show some of the power of this technology. Before I get into that, just a very quick preamble on GS1. I'm sure you folk know this, but we are a global standards organization. We operate over 150 countries around the world. We are all established as incorporated societies under a not-for-profit status. And in fact, in that regard, we are owned by you, the brand owners. So if you have our barcodes on your product, you essentially own our organization. Our role in life is, however, not to create a dividend for you. It is to provide standards that have been globally agreed that you can use to help build your business, build your brands, and help your business go faster. And indeed, most of the time, we create those standards with companies in the room, and we facilitate that. If you boil it down, what we do is we focus on standards that enable data to be trusted. And it can be trusted because we have accurately identified the product. We started with products, but today we also identify locations, companies, logistics units, and a whole bunch of other things. We use the barcodes, which is what we're going to talk about a bit today, to actually capture that item, that product, through a scan in real time. And we can easily use barcodes or RFID technology, and we've got the standards that sit behind that. And we also have the data sharing standards that enable product data that's collected from completing the first two steps well, that enables that data to be shared with trading partners and enhance their traceability data in particular. Thanks, Klaeri. Can you advance the slide? So essentially, if you boil it down to its simplest, these next generation barcodes or GS1 QR codes are simply the barcode that will not only go beep at the point of sale, so it'll be scanned by your retailer, but it'll also be about the barcode that is scanned by your consumers. So you imagine a world where there's actually only one, excuse me, barcode that's on the pack, and that's this barcode, because it meets your retailer need and it meets your need to talk to your consumers rather than having a proliferation of barcodes on your pack. And the benefits of that are quite substantial, and we'll get onto that. Why is this now becoming a thing? Well, it's because industry at a global level has agreed that there are significant benefits to be derived from this technology, and all retailers and manufacturers globally have agreed that by the end of 2027, retail scanners will be able to scan and process 2D barcodes by the end of 2027. So there is a huge work program underway globally, and we'll share with you some of those insights shortly, to modify the point of sale systems and the merchandise systems that ingest this data to enable this deadline to meet. For you, it means there will be changes required in your product labeling space, and Klaeri will talk a little bit more about that. But why do we want to do this? Why do we want to embark upon this revolution? Well, there are significant benefits for consumers, particularly those with disabilities, but also anybody around accessing information about the products they use and how they can consume them. I know a number of you are using QR codes today to provide this information via scan of a QR code on the pack. What we're talking about is being able to do that, plus a whole load more things from exactly the same QR code. And as brand owners, you will be able to enhance your traceability, you'll be able to do targeted recalls, you'll be able to do consumer engagement that you've never done before, and you will increase the efficiency of your supply chains. The batch or the lot number will be a currency that can be shared very easily through the whole supply chain. So any recall that's today done at a product level can be done at a batch level automatically. And for retailers, it increases their customer satisfaction, their loyalty, their speed of service, and you'll see some examples shortly of the sort of gains that Woolworths is getting locally here around waste reduction and improving the freshness of foods and reducing product getting sold to zero that is out of code. Thanks, Klaeri. And the information that you can load into these GS1 QR codes is almost infinite. You could load the batch, the lot, the best before. That helps you to massively drive inventory management gains, both in your environment, your DCs, but also in your customers' DCs and your 3PL providers' DCs as well. Clearly, that also enables greater traceability because you're tracing at the lot through the supply chain, but also you can load source of supply information, the parties that are involved with the product, where the product has come from, the companies, etc. Through to safety, whereby the retailer can put in place point of sale blocking technology that prevents an out of date product being sold and helps stock rotation, so quality of product. Sustainability is enhanced because you've got the capability to surface a whole lot of information about the sustainability and the credentials of your business, whether it's certificates or whether it's source of product or whether it's the farmer story or whatever it might be. You can do that very easily because a consumer can scan these with their smartphone today. And clearly that leads on to the consumer engagement on a much broader canvas, because it could be a provenance story, it could be a a promotion story, it could be a recipe story. You can link to a digital space and do anything you want in terms of communication to the consumers. And lastly, and probably just as importantly, it helps to tidy up your pack. How many packs out there are quite small and very difficult to read because the amount of data that's required to put on the pack, either for regulatory purposes or for your own purposes, is significant, and the typeface gets so small that it's almost illegible. That immediately can be addressed because you can take a bunch of stuff off pack that doesn't need to be on the pack, that doesn't need to be regulatory required on the pack. So you're decluttering the pack, and you're also enabling particularly people with disabilities to read the information easier. So with a simple scan of a GS1 QR code that will also go beep at the point of sale, you've got a whole tranche of product information that you can share with a future prospective customer. And those are just a few of the examples. Thanks, Klaeri. So could I ask you to just grab your phone, and you need to get your camera up and get your camera to scan that QR code in the center of the screen. And you should be presented with a Dell Giordano example. Now, this is just a mock-up product. It's just a GS1 mock-up that we use to show you the sort of information that can be surfaced to a consumer. Now, this is using what's called the GS1 Digital Link Standard. You don't need to worry too much about that, other than Klaeri explaining how you set this up in the QR code. But that standard enables you to link to a digital location, or it might be an app that you have to surface this information. And of course, the beauty of that is that you can change this information in an instant. So if you've changed a particular attribute of a product, you can do and manage the things that change much more rapidly off pack, as opposed to doing it on pack, which is very hard and is limited by the number of pack runs that you do in a year. Thanks, Klaeri. So hopefully you've been able to see that little demonstration and get a sense for one way of surfacing information to your customers. Clearly, everything I've described today has the opportunity to reduce costs, both for you, but also for your trading partners. It helps to create brand new experiences for you and your customers, and tidies up your pack at the same time, enabling you fundamentally to try and sell more stuff. Thanks, Klaeri. And of course, with the information being able to be updated really easily from one source online, that helps to deliver transparency and accuracy to the physical product that you're selling in store. And you can do that at light speed. And that is all about enhancing trust with your ultimate consumer and your customer around the product information that supports the sale of your product. Thanks, Klaeri. So at this point, I'm going to hand over to Klaeri Schelhowe. Klaeri has extensive experience in the print and labeling industry in Europe in particular. She was also the Executive Director of the Trust Alliance in New Zealand, which was focused on product traceability and the origins of product. And so she has a real focus on product identification and digital transparency through the supply chain. And Klaeri is our 2D lead at GS1 New Zealand, and is relatively new to, in fact, just 1 year in actually, to the organization, and is supporting directly brand owners on the journey to implement 2D barcodes, QR codes onto their pack. So at this point, I'm going to hand over to Klaeri. She's going to get into quite a bit more detail as to how these things work and provide you with some living examples of stuff that's happening around the world. Klaeri.
Perfect, Richard. Thank you very much. Thanks for the introduction, and good morning, everybody. So it's all about earning a dollar or saving a dollar, as to summarize Richard's presentation. So it's quite exciting, and let's getting into it. So I'm happy that I have my voice back. So my apologies up front. When it's going again, I will hand over back to Richard, but I hope it will stay for the excitement to the barcode session today. What Richard described is really setting the foundation and the scene, basically, that we are transforming and changing a complete ecosystem here. We are taking care of the consumers. They have to be educated to scan QR codes. We are taking care of you guys as a brand owner and manufacturers, and of course the retailers, and working with the retailers that they are able to scan the QR codes at the point of sale. Otherwise, the whole exercise is pointless, and we cannot harvest all the opportunities and benefits to save $1 or earn $1. So what we are doing actively with our members is really actively working with the retailer here in New Zealand, and as well as Richard mentioned as well overseas, to put them in a position that they're capable to read the new generation of barcodes to really make use of the benefits. So we have retailer testing kits that the retailers can test different barcodes and check if their point of sale scanners are ready and their backend is ready. So that's for your information, because that is basically the chicken and egg problem here, which we are tackling. And I will come to that one of our retailers is already ready and using it in a private label segment. But it's important that we, from the GS1 perspective, from the international standards, making sure that the retailers are on board as well. And we have full commitment and actively working with the senior leadership teams of the retailers here in New Zealand as well. And as you know, retailers are sometimes brand owners when we talk about private labels, so they are sometimes in your driving seat as well here. Giving you a little bit of an outlook of what Woolworths is doing in Australia and New Zealand. It kicked off in Australia, and they wrote out 2D barcodes. In this case, it's the Data Matrix one version of our 2D barcodes for their private label. They are focusing on the fresh produce, so on meat, vegetables, dairy, bakery, and ready meals. And the product categories have different priorities, how they will roll it out. But what they are doing here is they are adding the global trade identification number, so the GTIN number, a batch and a best before date and a price. And if it's a weighted product, a weight as well. Why are they doing that? And I would like to take a minute to explain that a little bit more in detail to you, because that gives you maybe hopefully a better position as well when you provide private labels to them, what to do and how potentially negotiate, because you have to make changes on your side as well. So what are the use cases here? The use cases are that with these barcodes, when they have the best before date embedded into the barcode, you have a hard stop at point of sale when your product is expired. And for whatever reason, it is still on shelf. It will not do the beep at the checkout, which is super important for food safety and consumer experience and satisfaction. So as a consumer, you cannot buy an expired product because it doesn't do the beep at the checkout, which is fantastic. It will help them to price mark down earlier, because what they do when they have to price mark down, they scan the barcode and the staff don't have to read the best before date as human readable text anymore. It just say, oh yeah, it is eligible for a markdown, and it will print the price markdown label immediately. Then the third use case is, we don't like to talk about it, but it all happens, and I think you all know that, recalls. How do we set up ourselves for a safe, secure, and very fast recall process? When you have a batch number embedded, the retailer can stop at the point of sale the specific batch. That means when there's a recall coming, not the whole SKU is being blocked and you have to withdraw it and recall it. It's only the impacted products are being wasted or being recalled. That makes a massive impact, because often not all the products are impacted. It's only a portion of what's on stock. And that will give you as well a negotiation option, I would say, with them, because when you have a targeted recall, you are in a much better economical or financial situation then. to recall only the products which are impacted. And Woolworths' official number here is 40% food waste reduction by having the targeted recalls and by having this targeted price markdown and as well the picking. So what they're doing as well, they have a freshness guarantee for online shoppers. And with these barcodes, they can check then the best before dates and can guarantee in the future that the products are, when you're ordering online, at least 3 days fresh. So that's a big advantage to them and to the shoppers as well. So remember, 40% food waste reduction depends a little bit on the category, but this is the official number. And that's not only financially, but it is as well a good thing for your ESG reporting to help to support reducing food waste. We've rolled out poultry and red meat successfully. We're in the middle of rolling out now with the GS1 members with cut fruit and cut vegetables. And then the next one will be bakery and dairy and ready meals and salads. So yeah, if you want to supply Woolworths or you are supplying already, feel free to reach out. We are happy to help to transition you. It could be potentially a competitive advantage as well. At least it is a plus, what we have heard from them. A little bit of an outlook of what happens internationally. And Richard mentioned already that there is a huge international push. And here, this is the letter which was signed by the big brands and retailers that they're all committed to go by end of 2027 and be ready to read and write and print QR codes. We are piloting and implementing in 48 countries in the world. And that these countries are representing 88% of the global GDP, which is massive. And just to mention some of them, we have Procter & Gamble, we have L'Oreal, we have Mondelez, Nestle, and Carrefour. So you see, they're really part of the drivers in the big ecosystem here and driving this forward as they all are seeing a huge advantage for the whole food system and not only for them individually, but as a collective. It is important that it's working together. One important target group, which I forgot to mention, is the solution providers. So your solution providers in the manufacturing, when you are printing the barcodes, are normally fully aware of this initiative, and they are the ones who can help you to transition as well. So we are working very close with them. So we have a solution provider group who are providing the hardware and the software to manage to print the barcodes there. I will come to that a little bit later. What are the changes here when you go to a QR code? To give you a flavor of what happens in the world, you see the green ones are implementations are live and in real applications in the market already. Blue are pilots completed, and yellow are pilots in progress. And from other countries, the red ones, we don't have any data, but you really see it's an international initiative, which is fully supported then by big brands and big retailers as well. A little bit technical, but not too much in this webinar is what is the difference between the 1D barcode and the 2D barcodes. You are aware of the stripy one, the linear one, which includes the number. And then the 2D barcodes, we have two different versions of it. Depending on your use case and your application, we can help you to select the right one. I would say at the moment, go for the QR code, 2D GS1 GS1 QR code. When you're not providing Woolworths with private label or your own branded products, because then you have the consumer engagement. When you're providing private labels, you are better you go with the data matrix, which is not scannable by a native phone, but has the productivity and efficiency advantages, which I explained previously. So in the 2D barcodes, you can encode a lot more data, and you can embed it a digital link, which then links to a website and provide more information. So that is the beauty here. Another advantage of the 2D barcodes is they are much smaller. So it's up to 50% smaller, and they can contain much more data in the code. And the third one is, remember when you have not only flat products, you have maybe a rounded product like a Christmas ham, just as an example. the label is maybe around a corner, but with a 2D barcode, when it's less than 15 to 20%, the barcode has a self-correction and the data can still be captured by the scanners. Or when you have a printing issue or something. So it's a much higher self-correction for the barcode to provide the right content here, which is great. A little bit, how does it really work? And that is an example here. So you see what kind of data you can encode into this QR code. You have your URL to your branded website. Then you have an indicator O1. That is, we call these application identifiers, which indicates to the point of sale scanner, careful or attention, a GTIN is coming. The number 10 is attention, a batch and lot number is coming. 21 is the serial number and 17 is for the expiry date. And you can have a lot more of data and with other application identifiers, depending on what you really want to encode here into the barcode. What does it mean? So for the 2D barcodes, we have two different ones I mentioned already. And now we have a little bit more complexity. We have static data and dynamic data. And I pause a little bit because that is important to understand. So you can choose to print the QR code as you do on the pack with your own URL and your O1 and then your GTIN number. And that's it. Then you print your package, your labels 100,000 times, you put them on stock and it's all good. It can be scanned at POS because the POS system will pick up the GTIN and the consumer will pick up with a phone the URL. That is what we call static data QR code. When you would like to make use of all the advantages I outlined previously in terms of efficiency, productivity, food safety, recall optimization, you need to encode and print the dynamic data, such as batch number and best before date, into your barcode and print it at the end of your manufacturing line. That is a bit of a change in the processing, how you print barcodes and how you manage that. You always have to still print as well the human readable text because that's legally required. So you can't get rid of that, but it will help you to optimize this process. So you will have a change in your end of your production line. And that means for your packaging change that you leave a white space on the pack and imprint the barcode at the end of your manufacturing or packaging line. And we are happy to help there. GS1 is providing barcode verification services, making sure that the barcode is in the right size, on the right place, in the right resolution, and is encoded correctly. So that's, happy to help there. Reach out. The earlier you would like to start, the better it is, because then we can make sure that you're on the right way in this transition. To give you a little bit of an example of non-food is, for example, L'Oreal you find already in the stores. They have implemented and wrote out the GS1 QR code with the GTIN number here. We are talking to them at the moment because, as you can see here already, and I choose this example to make you aware of that, when you scan this product, this is a high chance that it can be scanned twice. Because when you have a self-checkout, you see the barcode on the left side here, the linear one, and the QR code one. So GS1, we strongly recommend if you use both barcodes, because we are in a transition time, they have to be co-located quite nicely next to each other. So that's important to know, but we will help you to guide you through that transition. And the barcode has to be black and white and not green, because otherwise you might face any issues at the point of sale. And L'Oreal is changing it now to black and white for the contrast that the point of sale is picking it up properly. But they were one of the first ones and pushed out because they were so excited to have their consumer engagement. So it might be scannable, but maybe not on all. That's why I draw your attention to that. What else is happening? Wine regulations. So for the wine exporters, they know that already, that they have to have a kind of a digital label or electronic product information for exporting to Europe for the wine regulation. That ideally is a GS1 QR code because you don't want to slam 3 barcodes on your product. So you can have the consumer engagement and the customs requirements with one link and the point of sale, the GTIN number as well. We have implementations in the sports consumer interactions from Decathlon in France and Monoprix in the textile as well. That are all French examples here. It gives you a flavor of where you can use it. A very interesting use case is recycling return scheme. And I think Richard mentioned that as well. So the information how to recycle is not only for the consumer relevant, but when you have products which are going to Australia and New Zealand, and this plastic is not recyclable in the same way because in New Zealand it isn't, in Australia it is, or the other way around. You can embed this information on your website and the consumer can see how to recycle your product. That's one use case. Another very important one is the recycling machine can read the QR codes as well in this example here in UK. And they know exactly what kind of material is coming and how to sort it and how to guide it into the right recycling process. So this is quite fascinating. And that's why it is so important to keep your product data up to date in the GS1 database, because when you have packaging information there as well, that can be used in future, hopefully for recycled purposes as well. Another one is that we have faced from discussions with you guys that, of course, regulation is changing for packaging and it's always a bit of a hassle. You have printed material or packaging material on stock, and then they're changing regulations. You have to put another symbol on it. And when it's not really mandatory to print it on pack, you have the chance to provide it through the GS1 QR code here on your website. Another example, that is an H&M, Swedish. They have that for checkouts. So what they've embedded here, it's batch and lot number, their own product ID, country of origin, and the serial number, and they've combined it with a radio frequency identification tag. Just to give you a flavor here. Another one is a dairy industry, quite interesting. I'm just coming back from the Netherlands, and we are collaborating with them what they're doing in dairy, because dairy is always huge and difficult when they have to change things. And you see an example here from Bourine Yvonne, my milk. So it means my milk. They provide the consumer with the batch information. So they have implemented traceability end to end. And if the customer wants to see it, they can see it from which kind of farm or which kind of cow it was coming from. You maybe have followed the press in the UK. So Tesco is heavily testing a range of products with 2D barcodes and rolling out. So follow the press here and see what's going on. Last but not least, I would like to mention one initiative, which is a joint initiative with the Australian Food and Grocery Council and the New Zealand Food and Grocery Council and GS1 Australia and New Zealand. That is an implementation of the GS1 QR codes here that is providing, SmartFacts is providing a framework. It's not the tag, it's the framework, how it can look when brand owners and manufacturers are coming together and want to use SmartFacts and have the same experience for the consumer, independently what kind of product it is, that the consumer can find the same information at the same kind of user interface. So that's an initiative which we are offering as well. So if you're interested here, let us know, because that's an example how the landing page could look like. That's a GS1 orange juice here in that example. Yeah, so how do we get you started? What are we providing? We have a lot of tools, resources, and checklists, retailer scanner testing kit, and we are happy to advise and consult and guide you through the journey. We will share the information, all of these resources later on with you as well. I think maybe in the chat we have some, I sometimes call it the Bible. So that is the Retailer and Brand Manufacturing Implementation Guide. You find all the details there, but the easiest way is get in touch with us from GS1 and we are happy to set up the project and guide you through the transition. Reach out. Thank you very much. You find our contact details here. And then I think I can hand over back to Raewyn for the questions.
Thank you very much, Klaeri and Richard. And I was impressed, Klaeri, that you had a QR code there. I don't know if you left it up long enough for people to take advantage of that as the way of getting in touch with you. No, we'll carry on with some questions because I know that Tim has one related to quick response codes. And whether the QR code website linked to the product catalogue, will they match and are they these currently future state separate updates? So I'm not sure which out of the two of you experts would like to approach that question, but over to you.
Yeah, I'll have a crack at it first. That is a very pertinent question, because clearly what we're talking about here is fundamentally a distribution method of getting product information to a consumer or to your retailer. What we need to think about going forward, particularly as brand owners, is to think about the single source of that data and making sure that we're distributing it in a fashion from a single source of the truth. Because we cannot have malalignment between what might be on your pack and can be read by a QR code versus what might be in a GS1 database on your behalf, like the National Product Catalogue, or information that you are feeding directly yourself through the retailer's portal that they're surfacing on their website. There is a role for industry here to make sure that we're aligning all of this data sets so that there is alignment, first of all, to the physical product that's been sold in store, and that all the forms of distribution are talking from the same source. Good question.
Great question. Thank you very much, Richard. And Emily has popped in a question as well. Would we always have QR and data matrix options, or would we move away from data matrix eventually? Many examples are QR code rather than data matrix. Would you know if Woolworths Australia and New Zealand move from data matrix to QR in a later stage?
Okay, I'll start with that. The decision between QR and data matrix is a decision that ultimately you can make as the brand owner, and it depends on the business problem or the business opportunity that you have. So if your business opportunity is customer centric, i.e. the consumer that's going to consume the product, and you want to inform them, then the QR code is the way to go, because today that can be natively read by any smartphone. A data matrix cannot. It might happen in the future, but right now we're advising go to the QR code. If, however, the consumer engagement piece is not important to you, then you can look at the data matrix. The reason why Woolworths are using the data matrix today is because they cannot scan the QR code with the GTN in it at the point of sale today. They've got more work to do. It is their goal to move ultimately to the QR code so that they can add to all the benefits that they're getting at the moment. They can add to it the consumer engagement and provide them a story about the particular piece of meat that they're selling, etc. So that is their goal. They're not there yet. It'll probably take them a couple of years to get there.
Thanks, Richard. So hopefully, Emily, that gave you some further insight into that, and I can see a thumbs up there. So we'll move on to some other questions that we've got here, not in the chat or the Q&A, but some others that have come in separately. I know that you've spoken a lot about the support that GS1 offers, and obviously, given all of the technical aspects of this, it's really important. A specific question, what infrastructure or software updates might businesses need to support next-gen QR code implementation?
Klaeri, I'll give you that one.
So, should I take that one? So that's a good one. So it depends what is your existing setup. So if you're printing already QR codes at the end of the production line, then you might be able to, or you should be able to do 2D barcodes as well at the production line. So the first decision is, what do you want to print? Do you want to print static QR codes or dynamic data QR codes? Remember, it is, do you want to have batch information and best before date information? Then you have to change something at the end of the production line and be capable to print. Then you need a barcode software, which is not too expensive, and that can create then the barcodes on the fly. And then you have to have a printer in place there as well. If you say you only want to have static QR codes, then it goes back to your packaging and printing design for the packaging. Then it is a design thing and a printing from your supplier. But it really depends on the use case and what you want to do. So, yeah.
So, Klaeri, is it something that a GS1 member or a supplier could get in touch with GS1 about and talk about their particular use case and make sure they set it up correctly as we transition?
Yes,
Right.
we are happy there to help and or bringing you connecting you to a GS1 solution provider, which are trained by GS1 and aware of the standards, because that's important. That's why we have this solution provider group, and then we can have a conversation. Who are you working with now, and build on legacy systems, because we don't want to have reinvent the wheel, and make sure that equipment which is there can be used as well, if appropriate.
Great. Thank you. One of the most exciting things that you've mentioned in the presentation is the infinite nature of the ability to have information stored and displayed and available to customers, consumers, others through the QR code as opposed to the old stripy barcode. But there are some compliance issues around this, I think, that you probably want to share with our audience that they still need to be aware of. What would you like to highlight around those considerations as we transition?
Maybe if I start with that one, and maybe you add to it, Klaeri, but there's a couple of things. First of all, there will always be a requirement from the regulator to have certain information on the pack, right? So that's going to be the baseline. You can't strip that off the pack and put it on a digital label like this. So you need to make sure you're compliant in that space. But the other area that starts to kick in is really more around the implementation standards and the best practice guides that we will be sharing and educating people around. And the Nestle example, and forgive us, we're not trying to show Nestle in a bad light here. They're just really grabbing the technology and moving fast on it. But in their haste, they haven't quite executed it as well as it should be. And so whilst we're in a period of transition, i.e. not all of your retailers will be able to scan all of these symbologies, all of these barcodes today, means that you're going to have the stripy and the QR code on the pack. Then they need to follow the best practice guidance around co-location to prevent the double scan happening at the store, which will cause a retailer problem, it will cause a customer problem, and you just don't want to go there. And the reason why that's important is because we're getting all the retailers to modify their software in their system to actually recognize that there are two together, and therefore they only take the feed from one of them. And it's that level of global coordination that we need to oversee to ensure that the product that you create here with those two barcodes on can be sold anywhere in the world, not just New Zealand, because a lot of these products will also get exported, and that's just as important as well. Klaeri, is there anything else you would add to that?
Maybe to spin it a bit in a positive way, compliance-wise, from when we are addressing you as a member, it is the most important thing is what's in for you. It feels like a compliance exercise, but we hopefully we're inspiring you to see the opportunity and the benefits you can have with these QR codes. So you can earn $1 or save $1 with it. So it's not only a compliance tick box exercise to have this QR code. I think this is very important. Then you maybe want to think about your sales channels. So in which kind of markets you are selling. If you still have to put the linear barcode on, and we will help you with the compliance requirements from the GS1 perspective. Take the recommendation seriously, because you don't want to be the one who can't be read and scanned at point of sale. So that's why barcode verification is so important. And it's a good mini investment to make sure that the barcode can be read when you are in the transition.
Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any case studies or success stories from New Zealand or overseas that you want to talk more about that demonstrate the impact of the QR barcodes on business performance or other aspects of business success?
The big one coming out of this part of the world is the Woolworths case study right now. And in fact, that is getting documented. And Woolworths have been very graceful in sharing the insights and the knowledge and the improvements to their business that they've got from this technology. You know, a 40% reduction in waste. Not only is that just a good thing to do from the planet perspective, but you can appreciate that saving them a lot of money. So it's a fairly smart thing to do. But their product quality is improving. They were, at some regard, kind of disappointed as to how many products were getting blocked at the point of sale, because it meant that they weren't getting pulled off by what was previously a human process, and humans miss stuff. This prevents that from happening. But also they've now taken that right through into their logistics and procurement process, where they now have clear visibility of the batch all the way through that process. Whereas previously they would mark down a product, clear it all because they'd put a crazy price on it. The inventory system would look at that and go, oh, fantastic, demand is up. I'll replenish with more stock and create the same problem all over again. Now they know that they know exactly what batch it is, and they know exactly what price that was sold at, and they know the date that that product was going to expire. So they know that that was an artificial stimulation, and they don't repeat the error. So this is one of the most successful case studies that's been developed, and it's particularly beneficial to the fresh foods piece, but they don't even have the consumer engagement piece associated with that exercise. So you can imagine they've got another tranche of benefits to pursue when they're ready to roll that out. Klaeri, any others that you would?
I mean, maybe from overseas, for the consumer engagement is really the part of ingredients and nutrition. And you see a slowly but steady coming change that the consumer is scanning more and more barcodes. Because we sometimes face the challenge and say, the consumer is not interested and they are not scanning enough. And that's, again, the chicken and an egg. But when you provide good content for the consumers and want to differentiate and make the difference in your brand, you can excite them with gaming, with discounts, with promotions. And it's easy to summarize how to eat, how to cook, how to store, how to recycle, and how to reorder. These are the opportunities which you have as a brand owner. And ingredients and nutrition is important, especially for allergy people or allergic, for the content which doesn't need to be on pack. And then think about search functionality as well when they're online shopping. That's, I think it's important to keep in mind. Consumer experience is a differentiator. And of course, we all have to educate the consumer, but you see the trend coming from Asia and it will come to New Zealand. It is already there. And L'Oreal confirmed that. And you see, go to one of the biggest markets here, Chemist Warehouse, for example, and check how many people are scanning QR codes. Maybe so that's coming, or is already there for food as well.
Fantastic. Yes, it's certainly something to keep an eye on as you're out and about shopping, isn't it? So in terms of the biggest challenges that businesses are going to face as they implement these next gen QR barcodes, comments on how they can overcome them, and particularly, I guess, the fear of having that double scan issue, Richard, and knowing when the right time to really leap into this. Sometimes businesses will not want to be the first because they don't want to be the ones to have issues, but you also don't want to be the last. So as we're sort of heading towards the end of the webinar, what would you say businesses should be thinking about now? What challenges should they be aware of, and what can they do to get ready to overcome those as they transition?
Yeah. Well, I guess the first message is the end of 2027 is not that far away, actually. And the sort of stuff that we're talking about here will require, particularly if you want to go down the dynamic data route, it will require you to look at augmenting your print capability at the end of your line, at the packaging line level. Material to that is your relationship with your print and labeling solution providers. You know, they're going to be key to helping you and supporting you through this. And we're working with all of the major suppliers in this space, and they're well aware. And in fact, GS1 facilitates, and just launching very soon, a GS1 Asia Pacific solution providers forum to share best practice and to share learnings with that community, so that they get more prepared for the engagement with the likes of yourselves. So that relationship will be key. It's understanding what is your business opportunity in the first instance. Is it worth you chasing the dynamic data and all the gains of that? Or actually, could you take a much more lower risk, pre-printed QR code with a digital link on it, initially with a corresponding linear barcode, the traditional barcode, whilst we go through the transition. As long as you do that well to the standard, you won't have any issues around double scanning. Because today, either the retailer can't scan the 2D barcode, or if they can scan it, they're doing it in a way that's consistent with the standard, and therefore they are discriminating that there's two and will only record one. So that will be kind of key, but we're here to help. Every case is a little bit different. And so we just need to understand what your situation on the ground is, and then provide you with some support, provide you with some solution providers who are trained, capable of meeting your need, and then let you go through that procurement process.
Great.
And maybe say, make a plan now, consider investment cycle, consider product launches, consider product life cycles, and really plan and put the diverse team together, because you need more than only marketing and the product designers. You need operations, you need finance, you have a diverse team put together, and then get ready and really make a plan, and then time it, check your capabilities, and then happy to share a template for that as well, how we've done that with others.
Thank you. So there's lots of resource and support available from GS1 New Zealand. It's an international, global transition, so we're not alone doing this out on our own. We are part of a worldwide movement to go in this direction, and we have got the momentum or the incentive of a deadline. So it's important that all business operators pay attention and make sure they get ready, as very well advised by Klaeri and Richard, to do some thinking and planning now and pull the team together. Is there more that we will be doing, GS1 New Zealand, to raise awareness on this, and in conjunction with New Zealand Food and Grocery Council? Can we talk a little bit about other options that we have to make sure we give as much support and raise awareness as possible?
Yep. So we're constantly on the road on this, if you like. So a number of you may be aware that Food Tech, Pack Tech, which is the big packaging technology exhibition, happens later this year. We will be there. I've been invited to talk to the topic there. So that's talking directly to a lot of the solution providers. We'll continue to do that. I've also got Food Safety Council, and has invited me to talk to them. So
Great.
that work is continuing. Raewyn, we are looking to bring a global expert out in November that actually has written a lot of the fundamental architecture and the web vocabulary to enable this to happen digitally. I'd like to talk about, I think there's an opportunity for your members to hear from a global expert, and
Absolutely.
that would be a great opportunity as well.
Yes, so I think you can hear from both GS1 New Zealand and the New Zealand Food and Grocery Council that we're committed to continuing to work to keep suppliers and businesses up to date with what's happening and make sure that we support you getting ready for this as best as we can. We've recorded this webinar so that it can be shared. So if you have colleagues that you think should see it, or if you have people higher up in your organisation who you want to make sure understand it, we've got the references of the slides. We'll make those available. There's a video in the chat that people can look at. And if you have questions, you have the contact details of Richard and Klaeri at GS1. So we hope that gives you a really good start to thinking about this if you're just embarking on this journey. And if you are already making plans, we'd love to hear about them. Case studies and hearing the stories of businesses who are embarking on this and any challenges that they are facing and how they're overcoming them is incredibly valuable as well. So do get in touch and we can facilitate sharing some of those stories. But that's all we have for you today. So I would like to thank our amazing speakers, Richard and Klaeri, for the time they've spent preparing for today and the very good information and resources that they've shared. And also to thank all of our participants for taking an hour out of your day to stay up to date with what's happening. And I hope you have a great rest of the day, and we look forward to engaging with you again soon. Ka kite.
Thanks, Raewyn.
Thank you very much.